There we go. We live? Map live. Let's find out if we are live. Do. We're live. Hello, folks. Hello. Sorry about what happened yesterday. Internet, weather, all that jazz. It wasn't a good time. So basically, I recorded the smaller episode that's going to be up in a bit. It's uploading as we speak, hence why this one actually says that it's the episode ahead. But do not fret. It's on its way. So yeah, basically what I do with that episode is we just take out this little fort down here. That's it. What I also discovered in the last part was that these areas here, where they're slightly greyed out, are areas that we have seen but not walked over. It does not inspire confidence, but that's a thing that is there. So that's awkward. But anyways, also we haven't done this little bit here, so we're just gonna explore there. Then what I think I'm actually gonna do is, look, I'm gonna be real with you guys at this point. I've talked a lot about the fact that I don't think that the narrative in this game, well, it doesn't have a presence, right? So I'm heading towards this. I'm heading towards this story, and I've got no real drive to do it. It's not that I don't want to do it. It's just that I've got no reason to do it. The only reason I've got is for the mechanics, assassination and archery, and supposedly we'll get some more stuff later on as well. But actually think about that for a second, right? So archery is a ranged attack. I don't really know how that's going to be overly useful unless we're sniping people. And with assassination, I've always been dubious about the idea of assassinations in video games in general, because it often means that it's a press a button to win scenario with little to no thought put into it. Now you would say, oh, patience is the thing that you're utilizing with that. But we'll be fine. We don't have a kunai. I was going to try to throw a kunai at him. That's fine. You've got a kunai. You've got a kunai. I mean, that just doesn't look very gratifying, does it? Anyway. Oh yeah, we also went up a rank in the part that's going to be out soon. But yeah, it's not that, like, the assassinations, assassinating in general, in a video game, it always comes across like, we'll press button to win. You know, it's there's no skill involved in it, and you could make the argument that's like, oh yeah, well the skill involved in something like that is, you know, the timing of the attack, being patient with it, you know, all that stuff. And okay, I see where you're coming from, but at the same time, if the game gives me a method of taking out enemies by, well, essentially the way we've been doing it, parrying attacks, parrying attacks, attacking in specific ways depending on the enemies that we're going up against, stuff like that. what I'm trying to say is that the method that we've been doing things. So do we keep the iron and keep going up? Is that the idea? Because then we only need 10 iron and 5 steel. That's insane in terms of like how cheap it is to make this stuff. But yeah, it will be a big difference if we get given, after everything that we've been doing so far, an ability to hide in to hide in something like this, and then just 1 kill, 2 kill, 3 kill. Yeah, instead of actually like timing and it's not skill based, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I even if I get the assassination technique, like I'll do it for the mission, because let's be honest, it's going to be a Rockstar game scenario where it's like, oh yeah, in order to get past this mission you have to do precisely what it tells you to do. So I'm probably going to have to do that. But if I ever get the opportunity to break away from it reliably, then I'm always going to do that, because of a number of reasons, really. What I seem to remember is that even when you get the assassination technique, Jin still performs standoffs. And he finds the idea of like a stealth kill like not honourable, but you get swayed into it. That's really awkward in a way, because surely if you're going to adopt one fight style, like sure, if you're going to adopt one thing like that, you're probably going to drop the other. The reason why I say that is because why perform a standoff if you're going to be eager to stealth about and take them all out one by one, you know? Unless occasionally he gets bouts of like, oh, I want to be honourable now. Which doesn't really work. Because if it's like a scenario where it's like, oh, some days I'm honourable and other days I'm not, it like you can't be picky and choosy with that. Like that's a way of killing. It's really awkward just for him to go, I'll call them out and fight them fairly. Okay, cool, that's good. Oh, but I don't want to stealth kill people because that would be unfair and unhonourable. Okay, cool, good. But now I'm going to stealth kill things because I've been persuaded into it. Okay, fine, that's a change up of things, I guess, but you know, it's not a drastic. You know, it's not something that's unbelievable as long as it's written well enough. That's a fine change. But I'm still going to call people out and kill them honourably with standoffs. Okay, now you've lost me. So are you saying that you're being dishonourable whilst you're doing these kills? Are you actively acknowledging that? What's going on here? I guess maybe there's like a narrative excuse for it, but even like mechanically it doesn't add up, because if I can always perform one-hit kills by being stealthy, then why would I ever go in for a standoff? Surely I'm making my life more difficult by calling out every enemy in the area than I am by hiding in a hedge and taking them all out one by one. Time-wise, it probably takes just as much time, right? I mean, someone would probably argue that assassinations would take longer because you have to be patient and wait for the roots to line up perfectly, so that way one enemy can't see you whilst you're attacking another. And I would argue that the amount of time and patience it takes for you to do that, it would take just to fight them normally without the one-hit kills. Ooh, that's really awesome. Is that a full charm slot as well? Because that would be cool. Of course, like we could end up in a scenario as well where we end up having like a shit ton of that's not what I wanted to do. A shit ton of reduce enemy detection 50%. Yeah, why not? We'll get that. But yeah, of course, like if our weapon gets upgraded further and further, then the amount of damage that we're going to deal is obviously going to be more, which means that the amount of time that we're fighting people is going to be less. In which case, stealth's going to be even less desirable. It will transform into this thing where it's less skill based, far easier to pull off, and far meaningless to pull off at the same time. Like, yeah, hang on, we'll go down here and explore this area. I mean, if we keep upgrading our weapon the way we are, then you know, with timing, we shouldn't really have an issue with taking out enemies in a standard way. You know, just chopping them up, parrying them. We've already unlocked all the major parries, so we're literally at a point now where we can take on most enemies in the game cleanly without issue. So as long as the weapon damage is all the way up, there is legitimately no reason to do stealth. I mean, we can do that. Obviously, the thing with the stealth animation as well is that there is an assassination animation as well. Is that there is an assassination animation. How long does that go on for? You know, will it be quicker or shorter than that? It's awkward. It really is. I can just throw out kunai. I can run in and do all this. It's that's it. That's the leader killed like that. Is that quicker or is that slower than committing an assassination technique? Because it's like performing takedowns in Batman, right? It's like performing takedowns in Batman and assassinations in Assassin's Creed. Performing the actual combat itself becomes a little second-hand, you know, like. Oh, I need to sneeze, but I don't, and it's really bugging me. Yeah, so combat becomes a little second-hand. It's not that it's not fleshed out in those games. I mean, Assassin's Creed is a bit weird, let's be honest, but actually performing combat in the likes of Batman and Assassin's Creed is less desirable because of the sheer amount of enemies that you're going up against, because your combat moveset is limited. You can enhance it and make combat more than bearable past a point. In fact, you actually get to a point in something like Batman where you'll have an extremely easy time taking out enemies as your skill level grows. Not necessarily like Batman's skill level in the game, but as your comfortability with the controls and the mechanics grow. So then it just becomes a matter of time, right? That's the biggest issue when it comes to something like this. Past that point, do you like? Are you gonna waste time trying to assassinate someone? Is the animation gonna go on for too long? Is it gonna go on for longer than you can just like? Is it gonna go on for longer than you just like incapacitating them or killing them, like we do in this game, it's really awkward. Because here it's like... the combat is so satisfying in this. I don't know that's subjective, but the combat isn't just satisfying. There's a depth to it here. And what I really like is the fact that we've got attacks that we can parry, but at the same time we've got even though that we've unlocked the ability to parry most like visceral attacks, we still have attacks that we need to dodge. It keeps the skill there, it doesn't wipe it out, you know? And for me, that's really impressive. Well, it should be the standard, right? But it's impressive that they thought about that, because normally the developer will just be like, oh yeah, soon you're going to get the ability to block everything and it's going to be amazing, and you're just playing the game like 10 hours in after grinding for a bit, thinking to yourself, essentially what I've done is I've just made the game easier for myself. I haven't actually improved. The difficulty is just dropped by result. And I think that's something which, I know I'm going to mention Dark Souls again, but that's something that the Soul series does, like, amazingly, is the idea that you are leveling up, but you're leveling up so that way you can moderately enter a new area, you know, that you can go somewhere more comfortably, but at the end of the day you only approach an area of that game that matches your skill level at that point in the game. And I think that's something that's really important to take note of with stuff like that. And here I sort of feel like that's the case, kind of. There is an issue with this game being open world as a result. Then I know that there's going to be someone out there that's already like wincing at the idea that I'm saying that an open world game is, oh, it's bad, but that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that what I'm trying to say is that imagine making a linear game where you can control where the player goes at all time, and how you control like the skill level of each area, so that you can control the pacing. You know, you can set the skill level and the overall tone for. I thought these guys were dead. That was weird. Yeah, so in a linear game you can like set the skill level, and the player, it's the player's job to like meet in the middle, to reach the point where they are comfortable enough to proceed on with that game. With an open world game, you can't control where the player goes, and that's really evident by what we've been doing so far. We're nearly 10 hours in, and we haven't. In fact, I'd probably say that we are 10 hours in at this point, and we haven't even touched a single story quest. Which I don't know about you, but that's beyond awkward in terms of like setting difficulty. Well, not difficulty, sorry, but like a skill cap. Once again, like what am I to learn past this point? I've gone off in my own direction. I've done a shit ton of things by myself, and now I'm just here like, okay, well, I've learnt a lot about what the game has to teach me, but if I start up like a story mission, for example, will the story mission like will I blaze through it because I have leveled up to this point? Doku, we found a way down the cliffs. It's dangerous. It's a dangerous climb, but it seems safer near the waterfall. The boat is meant to come tonight. You have to make it. Father says there won't be another chance. We don't want to leave without you, but we can't stay. I hope you understand. Warrior's brush. I still don't buy that, like, I'm necessarily, like, emotionally moved by this. The idea of, seeing these guys, like, killed after we read something like that. You know, to a casual journalist, he'll probably read that and go, "Ah, wasn't that emotionally moving?" And I'm just here like, no. What do you mean you weren't emotionally moved by this? This quest was so compelling as a result, don't you think? No. You're a heartless person, you are. Like, I'm sorry, but it wasn't emotionally compelling. It wasn't. Why wasn't it? Because it was one-dimensional? I read a note that people died, and then I looked to the side and I saw that they died. Yes, but think about the struggles those characters went through. No. Why not? Surely that's making the game worse as a result. Nope. The issue with something like that is that my brain's doing more work than the game's given me. Right? So I'm looking at dead bodies and a note that went, "Oh, isn't this sad?" I'm just standing here going, no, it's not sad. Because that's not how emotions work. You can't just go up to someone and go, "Oh, isn't this sad?" and then that's it. You are sad, right then and there. That's how it works. Like, no. Look, this family, they unfortunately passed away and died in this game. A, I didn't know them. B, I don't have a reason to care because I didn't know them, and also because I wasn't given any development on them, period. And C, they don't have enough information on development to be classed as characters. It's like getting emotional at a Wattpad post. My brain can't do it. It's like, "Oh, but isn't it, look at the dead body, look at the dead body." Oh, that, like a man standing at his house going, "Oh, my family, I left them behind, oh, samurai, I need you to save them." And then you go into the house to try and save the family, and then they're actually dead. And then you go back to the man and go, "I'm sorry, but they're dead." And then the man starts crying, and then that's it, the side quest is over. And I'm just standing there like, I'm sure that the game thought it was really impressive. and really moving with how that side quest went, but by the time I've moved on to the next side quest, I'm not going to remember this dude's name. And yeah, but just that, there we go. I'm not going to remember a thing about this. Like, it's shit like that isn't memorable. It's kind of awkward, if anything. because once again, it's one note. I walk into an area, someone goes, "Oh, they stole my food and my family's dead. Could you get the food back at the very least?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, sure, why not?" I get the food back. "Oh, thank you. You saved my life." And then someone's gonna write an article about how this game has like some of the most compelling quest lines they've played in the video game in ages. And I'm just sitting here going, "She asked for rice." I have as much emotional investment in her as if I was working at a kiosk in a supermarket. "Oh, but you went out of your way to save her." "I pressed buttons on a controller and she was thankful." Like, I know that's superficializing everything, but that's like, if the game's not going to do its legwork into getting me emotionally invested in what's happening, then I'm not going to give the game any credit for what I'm doing, essentially. What else was there? There was the healer that was walking about the place going, "Oh, there's more to life, Jin, than killing. You need to have some restraint." I'm just there going, he's not going to remember this. It's a side quest. The second we're done, we're going to go back to our slaughtering ways. There is no mechanic or option so far in this game that allows me to heal other people. I doubt there's going to be one. I am going to wander about this game as a killer. Like, a side quest like that does not add up when there is no pacifist option. The pacifist option is to not play the game. Oh god, it's awkward, but it's so true. I don't consider these side quests to be particularly deep, or varied for that matter. I think that the way that we've been fighting enemies and the various the various groups that we like, the various variations. That's such a weird thing to say. Of enemies that we've been fighting have been compelling in terms of combat, but I think that we've gotten to the point where we've seen just about every single iteration and combination of enemy thus far that it's sort of dead in the water at this point. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm still having fun with it. That's not an issue. But now I can't really say that I am I'm spending my time doing anything worthwhile other than what I'm bumping into. Like, I'm seeing shit like this over here. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go do this. Gee whiz, that sure was a thing we did. At the very least, when it comes to this, I can't say that that nothing we have done is rewarding, because everything that we've been doing, I've been constantly gaining resources, knowledge in terms of how I fight things. Like, I'm not stumped, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and that's really what's the term for it? That's really compelling, because it fuels this idea in my head that as I continue to play, I am going to continue learning about how to play. That doesn't mean I'm going to lie to myself about this game. I mean, me and Jack did like an entire podcast and just Limgrave alone from Elden Ring, and in that podcast, why didn't you go on the branch? And in that podcast, we managed to rip the game a new one entirely. Not, but we like the game. That's the thing, right? That's the distinction there. Like, we actively like and enjoy the game on like a really subjective level, but we don't think the game is as great as people are saying it is. But the second like someone like gets like an inkling of the norm of what a video game should be, or what a film or piece of media should be, they instantly give it a 10 out of 10 and praise it as like the highest thing imaginable. Because we don't get the norm anymore, because standards have dropped. Everyone is more forgiving of other people's mistakes, and I think that when it comes to something like the media industry, that shouldn't be the case, especially when you're putting billions of dollars into films and into games and all that jazz, and you get all these studios complaining about crunch time, and no one really gives a shit about it, because why give a shit about the people behind? Yeah, why give a shit about the people behind these products and how they made it, and whether or not they actually gave a shit about what they were doing, or whether or not they were just doing it for the paycheck, versus, well, just not that. Like, someone used an example once on me that oh well, you wouldn't care about the person that was making your food for you. To which I replied, yes, I fucking would. I'm sorry, but if the person who's making my food is in a bad mood, I don't want to get food poisoning because of that. I don't want to walk into a restaurant and have a cook spit in my face. You know, like, I've got standards. I've got standards and respect my tastes. So for someone just to go, oh yeah, you know, like, what? When I watch a film or play a game, I just see a story and nothing else. No, you fucking don't. You see fireworks. That's what you do. You're as easily entertained as a child with a rattlestick. Sorry about the tangent. Why am I apologising for that? Like, this is what I do. I go on tangents. It's my thing at this point. But yeah, I stand by that, by the way. Like, I've seen so many people lose their shit over the most minute things. The Daredevil clip that came out yesterday, people this completely dated this, by the way, but people completely losing their shit over it, going, oh my god, look, Daredevil's back. Like, even people that hated She-Hulk are now looking at Daredevil going, looking at Daredevil's return and going, oh my god, it's Daredevil, this show's actually going to be worth watching. What? They've inserted a character you recognise and you think that the writing's going to improve? That's not how that works. Like, the same people are making this show, right? If you disliked everything about the show up to this point, just because a cardboard cutout walks in and goes, hi, I'm Spluderman, does not automatically mean that the quality of the writing goes up. Like, Charlie Cox is Matt Murdock again, which means that at least there'll be something decent in this show. That's not a guarantee. In fact, it's highly unlikely, because the show is written awfully. Yes, but at least Charlie Cox can act Daredevil well. Yeah. And I'm sure that all the other actors are acting incredibly well with the script they're given. You see the issue there? There's a fine permanent marker line that's just been drawn with what you've said. It's like when people were praising the 13th Doctor, right? Praising Jodie Whittaker, going, oh, you know, well, the episodes were shit, but at the very least, Jodie was giving her best, right? She was trying to do her best with the script she was given. Yes, with the script she was given, which was awful, which means that she was performing awfully. Like, whether that was dictated by the script or not. No, I don't think that she's particularly a person that's worth, like, praising in that scenario. But she's doing her best, and it's not her fault that the script was written badly. I'm sure that Jodie could have been a great Doctor if it was written well. I'm sure that most people could have been a great Doctor if their iterations were written well. Once again, see the issue with that. What you've essentially done is you've created this, like, infinite issue for yourself. That's why, like, people going on about casting, it's fucking insane, right? But a Little Mermaid film coming out, and people are saying that, oh, Ariel's going to be black now. Isn't this like this a horrendous thing because they've just race swapped the characters? Like, no, that's it's not. It's just not. She is a person. She's acting. That's fine. Like, I've got no issue with any of that. My issue is the fact that I don't trust the writers. My issue is the fact that I saw the trailer and I don't think that is it Hal Bailey? I don't think that whoever was a singing coach well, basically taught her well. I mean, listen to her sing part of that world. She hits every note apart from one she's meant to. The issue here isn't to do with the person that's playing the role, it's to do with the instructions that she has been given. But that's not to say that she's not blameless, because she agreed to it and she found no fault in it. And I think that's something that a lot of people are just ignoring as well. Like, oh, you know, the writing is the truly terrible thing here, and that's that. The writing is bad, yes, and that is the major issue here. That is the top thing. But don't defend the team making it afterwards, right? Because everyone said yes to that. Like, everyone looked at things like Loki, everyone looked at things like Thor Love and Thunder. Like, all of the actors involved, the producers involved, the writers involved, the director involved. They're, like, in a project, it really is like a Jenga tower scenario. Everyone is firmly... Oh god, we're stuttering. Are we good? Are we good? We've been going for 39 minutes. Please don't do this. Okay, we're good. We're good. Sorry, a big cloud just rumbled and then my internet got interrupted. I think the storm's still happening. It's a bit spooky. But yeah, as I was saying, it's a Jenga tile scenario with this sort of stuff, right? If one person has failed their job, it's up to the other people to sort of support and to try and like affirm that that person has failed, and to basically either counsel them or to inform them. A special effects team, okay, for a very terrible reason, they have done a bad job with the effects with the MCU recently, right? That someone would say that's an arsehole thing to say, but no, that's an objective thing to say. Yes, but they got rushed, they didn't have enough time on it. You know, it's not their fault. No, not necessarily, but the statement's still true, and that proves that there is fault to be placed somewhere. I've had a conversation with someone that I've known that has said, "Oh, these people, these people should just quit their jobs and work elsewhere." Yes, that's really easy to do when a company like Disney earns 90% of the media industry. It's like everything that's going on with the likes of Microsoft at the moment. No one's nervous about Microsoft whatsoever. No one's nervous about Microsoft or Sony, right? Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, the way that they're casually like slurping up studios at the moment, just willy-nilly, all fine. Oh yeah, there's no issues there. Just completely ignore the fact that all these big mega conglomerate corporations, how many industry terms you want to slap at the end of that, like just ignore the fact that all these massive studios are like buying up everything, which essentially means that if one person fails at their job, they can never work again in that industry. Because when one company owns everything, what makes you think that they are going to rehire you? Think about that. That's the fucked up nature of everything that's going on at the moment. And that's pretty much what happened with the effects team at Disney. You know, if they fuck up at but with Marvel, well, who owns Marvel? Disney. Okay, so who do Disney own? Practically everyone at the moment. There's a reason why, like, it was initially like the Big Seven, then it was the Big Six, and now like the Big Five, and then it was the Big Five. And it's not that anymore. They've gone. They've all fucking gone. It's Disney and some other people now. That's the world we live in. So if you worked with Disney and you fucked up or failed, like, that's it. And could you imagine how intimidating that is to find out that like a franchise you know and love is going to be produced by Disney? That is a terrifying prospect these days. Because that means that if they attempt to do anything with that franchise and they can't find it like financially viable, they might just can that franchise for life. Even if it's good, if it's too niche, it's gone. That shit terrifies me. It's why the media industry is so hard to get into these days. Why it's so hard to work in that field. Because if you fuck up once, everyone's going to know about it. It's why I'm sort of happy that the BBC is struggling at the moment. Like, I don't wish anything bad upon the actual employees of those studios, but it means that the industry in Britain can be more diverse as a result on TV, because now everyone's not pointing out that the BBC is like the holy media god over here in Britain. Shit like that, decide the bandit's fate. What moral implication do I get from this? Is that going to ripple throughout the course of the... It's not. That was a one and done. But yeah, like, once again, I don't wish anything like negative upon the employees of the BBC, but it's the age-old saying of like, it's showing that gods can bleed. You know, once you see that, like, the possibilities open up. You can work wherever the fuck you want at that point. You just need to be able to be in the right time and place. And if you're going to go into like any form of the media industry, whether that be, you know, television with the BBC, movies with Disney, or the video games industry with Sony and Microsoft, the second you work with one of these big companies and they keep like consuming smaller brands and IPs and companies in general, what essentially happens is that if you fuck up, you can't work back in that side of the industry again. If anything, I think that's why it's incredibly important to support indie developers and indie filmmakers. And you think about like the amount of creative control like a small developer or a small filmmaker has in comparison to going with the corporate checklist of Disney and the BBC and Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo. Like the restrictions you get by that, because every film has to be aimed at a very specific demographic. You have to make sure that you market it in a very specific way. You have to make sure that when you're advertising your product, you're saying very specific things in order to draw attention to it. There is a solid reason as to why things like race, gender, and sexual orientation have been popping up increasingly more in the media industry, and that's in the news as well, especially when it comes to media, and that's because media industries keep bringing it up. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that like bigots don't exist, they do, but what's going to be more impactful? Some racist guy on the internet spouting some harsh, horrible shit, or Disney making a public statement about it? You know, that one's a lot louder than the other, and don't get me wrong, there is positive reinforcement in that, but that also sends a message to a lot of people saying that it's like an extreme form of paranoia. I guess it is what Disney are fueling, where they're trying to they're indirectly convincing the world that everyone is an enemy. I mean, Lord forbid someone just casually wants to send some, you know, much needed critical feedback to a show that desperately needs that shit. And then what happens? It gets drowned out. And that's not me saying that once again, but like, the bigots don't exist. They do. They're abundant. But how long can you, like, how long can you make that your excuse? How long can you keep swimming in that pool of everyone's out to get me? Because that's how it feels. It's like that one. It's like that one friend that you knew that freaked the fuck out and started saying that everyone was out to get them and everyone was, you know, going to poke holes in their eyes and they're all going to do horrible things to them, and you're just there like, dude, I just said you dropped a pencil. Oh, you're trying to say that everyone in the... are you trying to say that there's no one in the world that doesn't think that I'm an arsehole? No, there's probably someone in the world that thinks you're an arsehole, because there's a bunch of people in the world that think... There's a bunch of people in the world that thinks a bunch of other people. Everyone's got an enemy out there. It's like... I'm not saying that you must live your life squeaky clean, you know? that the world around you is going to love you like a princess in a Disney film. That's not how that works, and that will never be how that works. But don't then live your life pointing at everyone else going, you are the problem. I mean, could you imagine if like a child was to say something along the lines of like, I think that the writing in this Disney show could be better, to like a Disney exec or something like that. A small, innocent child that knows nothing about the dangers of the world looks at this exec and goes, I think that She-Hulk is a bad show that's written poorly. And they actually had, like, constructive feedback to give. They managed to show them where they were lacking. And then that exec just turns to that child and goes, you're sexist. So he's just a child, fucking hell. He wanted to help. That's kind of how it feels like at the moment. Like, I know so many people that are literally just going like, when did everyone get this weird idea that we've always hated Disney? Like, no, we hate what they've become. I definitely don't like the idea that Disney is now this weird, paranoid, always on edge studio that has to make sure that, you know, every film is an apology letter to someone. Just in case someone were to get up behind them and jab them in the back. Like, Lord forbid that they have a backbone at any point, you know? I don't know. I find that... Some days I find that amusing, some days I find it incredibly disturbing. We're lucky that we're on a day where I find it amusing. Everyone's pointing out how progressive Disney have got as well. Meanwhile, Mickey Mouse is still wearing minstrel gloves. It's like, what the fuck? Granted, it's because no one points it out anymore, and everyone's been brought up and conditioned to be in a world where they are just gloves. But they didn't start that way, and no one gives a shit. I still think one of my favourite excuses that I've seen for... I keep bringing this up because I really love this excuse that that I keep hearing about why the films that Disney are making are lacking quality now, and the excuse is always along the lines of, well, there are other films, and there are other films back then were bad too. Yeah. What you have just done there is you've identified a secondary problem that was not a part of the context. I was not referring to those films, but now that you bring it up, yes, they were bad as well. Also, you gotta love the second like the second-handed like stupidity of that. This film or this piece of writing is terrible, but that's okay because this other film and piece of writing is also terrible. Okay, so what you have done is you have freely admitted that the film is terrible. It's not gonna get old on me. I've had that happen so many times beforehand. It was when I was pointing out how forgettable and lackluster Eternals was, and someone was bringing up Ant-Man, going, "Oh yeah, well, Ant-Man and the Wasp was incredibly forgettable and lackluster as well." So yes, they both were. And also, thank you for agreeing with me. Game of Thrones series 7 and 8 were terrible. Oh yeah, well, Game of Thrones series 4, 5 and 6 were awkward as well. Yep. I'm glad we all agree on this. It's a very aggressive way to agree with me, but you know, thank you anyway, I guess. I don't know why that tickles me. It's just a funny thing, you know? Just a funny thing. Oh, the latest one I got was actually involving a Souls game. Where I said that I didn't like the bosses in Elden Ring in the Twitter post. And I had someone come back and say, "Oh yeah, well the bosses in Bloodborne were terrible as well." It's like, yeah, they were. Most Souls bosses are bad. This is an opinion that should not be niche. I'm actually quite confused with the idea that like From Software's bosses were great at all came from. I mean, Unsing and Smell were, they were great, but like that was like lightning in a bottle. Like, did anyone actually look at the Capra Demon and go, guys, masterpiece? Ooh, I've got to go, guys. I'll be back soon.